This session for Philly Tech Week this morning. My name is Karl Kraus. I am a senior business consultant with the Small Business Development Center of the Foxborough Business University. It's a long title. I actually work with Jay and xSoTec and the team in helping them with their business, getting it rolling and growing the business from strategic and tactical standpoint. And just want to give a quick introduction on the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center at Temple. We are one of 18 small business development centers across the state of Pennsylvania, all part of the PA SBDC network. And our mission is to help small businesses to get started, to grow, to thrive, and to survive. We do that through both educational opportunities for small businesses and entrepreneurs, as well as one-on-one consulting services. The program is funded through a number of grants, including from the Small Business Administration, federal government, and Department of Community and Economic Development from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that allows us to provide many of our consulting services at no cost to the entrepreneur. And those consulting services include a full range of support, general business consulting, strategy, marketing, accounting, financial projections, help with getting ready to go ask for loans and or equity investment, and also full services in the area of technology commercialization from idea to launch, and manufacturing support and things like that. And when we say small businesses, just keep in mind that a small business varies depending on the type of business it is, but we can work with clients up to 500 employees, $38 million. They're still considered small businesses in many industries. So again, I'd like to welcome you, and now I'd like to just pass it over to Anna, who's going to tell you a little bit about xSoTec.
Small businesses can go up to 500 employees, but xSoTec, we're still starting small. So we have our entire team here today. My name's Anna. I am the business development director. This event today is sort of my baby. But also here with us is Jay. He's our director. He will be leading you through the story of our company has gotten started and continues to grow. Eliana is also here. She's our lead developer. And then our lovely Ike is in the back, and he's running all of our technical recording and making sure everything goes well. We'd also like to thank you all for being here. This is really exciting for us. Of course, as I believe we told you all, there's food behind the screen. So feel free to enjoy. Take it as much as you like. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Jay.
Well, good morning, everyone. I don't know whether I need a microphone. Everybody can hear me pretty well. All right. So our story begins. I'm going to give you a little bit of a story. And the story begins. Oh, before I start, I do want to introduce John Gamba is from Catalyst, and that's another organization that's helping us get started, along with the Small Business Development Center. Catalyst is helping us with how to fine-tune our product, and if so anyone who's interested, has got a small business that needs assistance, Catalyst is a great organization. It's focused on education. Whereas the Small Business Development Center, of course, is all kinds of business. And also, yes, use the microphone. Oh, okay. So the other person I just want to say, Sylvia Sims is here. She's a former school reform commissioner and longtime Philadelphia resident. If you're looking for resources in Philadelphia or the school district, someone who knows a lot about both of those things, Sylvia Sims is here, and I'm glad she came. And all right, so to get started, 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was a consultant, a long-term employee, then consultant with the School District of Philadelphia in the Office of Educational Technology. And what was going on at that time in the school district was they were starting this thing called the Innovation Schools. And they picked 3 or 4 schools in Philadelphia to be different. We're gonna see, we recognize that Philadelphia isn't always the quick acting, nimble organization that you might expect. Let's try to pick 4 schools that we're gonna make nimble. We're gonna let them be creative and see what they can do. So as part of that Innovation School initiative, the schools hired an organization to build for them their own custom student information system. And they started after more than a year of working in that system. The schools were ready, but the system was not. Now, big surprise. Traditional custom development is hard. It is always harder, and it always takes longer than you think it's going to take. And so there was nothing wrong with this particular developer. The issue was that the school district didn't realize how complicated a task it is to build an original system. So what they did, the school district, because it wasn't ready, the school district called me. I was sort of the techie in the department, and by techie, it means that I knew something about spreadsheets. And they asked if I could build something in a spreadsheet that could bridge the gap temporarily for the schools, these innovation schools. Could I build something that could give students a dashboard, something they can see while the rest of the system is being developed? And they came to me because spreadsheets are flexible. You can do almost anything in them. They work with data. Why not build something in a spreadsheet? Maybe every student would have a spreadsheet. I don't know, that's an idea. And we build it. By the way, it's August, and we have to have it ready by September, right? So, of course, I had to go quickly to try to figure out how to get a spreadsheet solution that after more than a year of development, the traditional organization wasn't quite ready. So, fast forward. I'm going to skip all the last 4 years because I want to talk about, in the last year, what happened over the last 4 years. Well, over the last 4 years, that simple idea, that temporary simple idea of using a spreadsheet to just create something for every student blossomed. They actually more like exploded than blossomed. And instead of just looking at student grades, when we started building things in spreadsheets, we realized that spreadsheets are so flexible that the schools were able to be more creative. And that's a really big deal. That we suddenly, without knowing it, gave more power to the actual people using the system rather than somebody who is just sitting behind a desk in another building, maybe another country, just building the system and not using it. So we gave the power to the users, and suddenly what we developed looked nothing like what we thought it was going to be. So instead of grades, I thought this was all about grades. One of the top things was goals, right? So I don't know, Eliana, can you just give a quick talk about what happened with goals?
So we were working with a school in Qatar. In the
Middle East. In the Middle East.
And they wanted daily goals that the students would fill out every single morning. And so we created a goal system for them, and it worked beautifully. But then we were back in the United States, we were working with a school in Illinois, and they also wanted a goal system, except they wanted a weekly goal system. And from then on, we kept tweaking it, and every time we met with a new person, it would just become a whole new product that first fit their organization, but also just worked better, because every time you meet with a new person, you're always going to get, not that the product itself, like the scripting didn't get better, but the actual idea and how it worked would always improve, and would better fit the students' needs. And so that's what happened with, this is our latest iteration of the My Goals, where the students are inputting great goal whenever they want, not weekly, not daily, whenever they feel that they have a goal they wish to complete, they input it with a Google form, shows up in a spreadsheet, and then from there they can click on another button within the spreadsheet and fill out whether the goal is completed or whether it's still in progress, or any updates to the goal that they want. And that came about after, a year and a half of talking to a lot of different schools about what they needed.
Perfect. So that's perfect. And it gives you an idea that we didn't start out with goals at all. We were just talking about grades. But a teacher in a school in the Middle East said, but could I look at goals? And then suddenly we have a new product because it's a spreadsheet. And the other two really interesting ideas that we never anticipated even thinking about was culture and attendance. And that actually happened with a school local to here called the U School. And I'm wondering if you could just talk about what you were thinking and how that happened, just, those two things, and what's so innovative about these things that, yeah.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I've been working on this product with Jay since the beginning, and so one of the challenges that I think schools have is that they're forced in a place. Number one, they're forced in a place where they don't have the ability to augment the tools that they need for their micro system, right? And so we have a very unique school community that does grading differently, talks about culture and attendance differently. And so we really wanted to push this to be a comprehensive dashboard, right? So the way that a lot of schools and school districts use, they buy different products, and then they have to figure out a way to make them talk to each other. And so we've already built this dashboard. Well, let's integrate our restorative culture system into this system. Let's integrate our attendance system. Let's have students actually see and talk about the data in a holistic way that's impacting them and impacting their performance in school. And so yeah, we developed with Jay a culture and attendance system. And again, to the previous point, two previous points. We were at the table because we had a large grant from a large foundation to launch the U School, and so we were at the table during that design year for the most beautiful competency-based grade book in the United States, right? It's beautiful, it is gorgeous, but what I realized is I was partnered with another new school organization. I was sitting at the table and realizing that my money was going to, because we're a school district school, my money was going to disappear, and I was not going to be able to have a voice. The name of my school is the U School, which stands for Users at the Center. We were not going to be able to continue customizing a tool for a model that had never been built before. And so I was like, I immediately said to Jay, like, we're going to get out of this other tool and we're going to build with you, right? I had the staff vote on it too, but it was just like, we need to have a prototype, a medium that a school and educators can take ideas to prototype to action in short cycles, not year-long cycles. Because if you call a big company like Canvas or, when is this on your development? They're going to say, oh yeah, that's on our development pipeline. It's coming. When's it coming? spring 2021, like, oh, cool, like, I need this now. Like, I want to test this now. And like, it's no knock against those tools, but most tools aren't built for micro communities, right? I'm a school in North Philly. We are asked to do very unique things. The things that we want to do are very specific. And so a school should have the power to design the tools its teachers, its students, its leadership needs. And so, we've been part of this process since the beginning because the value of schools having that power is priceless, right? It's literally priceless. And while, xSoTec has grown and developed into a much more robust organization and has a much more robust tool, the core principle is the same. It's like, how do we empower schools and educators to meet the needs of the people in front of them? And I think the second cool thing, because I just ranted for a second, the second cool thing is that the tools that people design, like this culture system that we've designed and this attendance system that we designed, other schools in the country want to use them, right? Other schools in Philly, so like we started doing this stuff, there's other schools in Philly using our tools, right, that we designed. And so what the cool thing about this is that it can create a different kind of ecosystem that leverages a conversation about tools in school. And for those of you that are in education, you know that is important. Like, educators need to have their hands on the tools, right? If you want to empower schools and you want to empower educators, I think the pendulum is kind of swinging back in a way in education where systems and people around systems, schools of ed are ready to see that educators need to have their hands on those tools, right? And need to be able to customize for the needs of their students and the needs that they have in front of them. And so I think this is why 5 years ago, like, we set on this journey is like, I believe in schools and systems where educators are working to design what they need for them, and xSoTec has provided and developed a system, a set of systems that does that.
Thank you. And that's Neil Giet, principal of the U School. And thank you. So what he did not say, which is really the brilliance, when you go to a school and the school itself, the principal and the teachers have ideas, they hit you, it's like a ton of bricks. Because I'm just going to say, your idea was, other schools, just like you said, other schools around the country are using these ideas now. That, Neil said, I'm not going to just do a pink slip where kids get disciplined. I'm going to build a system in my spreadsheet that has positive, so they get shout-outs. Yeah. They don't just get infractions.
I can explain that really quickly. So at our school, we're a restorative school, so anything a student does, they have to fix. 5 questions. You're late to class, you have a bad day and you disrespect an adult or another student. What happened? What was I thinking about at the time? What have I been thinking about since? Who's been affected by my actions? What I need to do to make this right? And so our system of consequences is placing responsibility on students and adults to solve their problems. And so if I do something in a class, I get a reflection. And so we built a loop there. So I did this thing, I get an email, I get a notice on my dashboard, and then there's a Google form where I can respond to those questions, right, before I go sit down with the teacher or the adult or the person that said, like, you need to fix this with me. So it's like a scaffold, and you can see it kind of on the right side there, like where it enters, the students saying what happened, and they start typing that in, and that goes in their dashboard, and then the teacher gets to sit down with them and say, like, hey, you're full of crap, you're not doing enough reflection, right? Like, this is not good enough. You said this to me yesterday. You know what I'm saying? And then it puts the onus on the kids, and so we wanted a system that built that ecosystem there, and that's what the culture dashboard is.
And also, I'm just so wowed every time I go to a school, and there's such brilliant ideas. The other idea, the attendance is great.
Yeah.
If I can just say it real quickly, the the attendant, everybody is stuck thinking every single attendance system in the world looks at three things. I bet you all know it. Absent, tardy, or present. Yet every single person in this room probably recognizes that, wait a second, if I'm 1 minute late, that counts the same as 2 hours late? And yet every single school in the country counts them as the same. Yet everybody knows that's ridiculous, right? Get some nods, I think everybody pretty much knows what I'm talking about, right? So the youth school said, well, that is ridiculous. Can we set it up so that students get more points it's worse, essentially. It's worse if you come 2 hours late than if you come 1 minute late. And they added to that, which I thought, another step. They said, wait a second, if they come early, could that make up for the fact that they came late? And they asked me that, and I said, well, it's just a spreadsheet. If you can put it in a spreadsheet, they're just numbers. So we added that, and we created an attendance system, and then Ellie saw it, and I think you were working in Allentown?
Yeah.
And in Allentown,
It's just that Allentown wanted an attendance system as well, and so they took it, and they actually, most of these spreadsheets we design, but we also give the ability for other schools and other businesses to create their own spreadsheet, and then we help them feed the data into it. And so that is actually a design by another school for their school, designed by a tech person. And it works just the exact same. We have our tools in the background running the data through to it.
so I don't know if you're getting the pattern here, but the schools, we give the schools the power to think creatively, and we handle the data in the background, which is fairly easy because they're all spreadsheets. Okay, let's go to the next. All right, and we won't spend too much time, but remember, one of the things that Neil Giet said in the very beginning was that these innovation schools had a different way of grading. So one of our challenges was, let's come up with a spreadsheet that had a different kind of grading, and we were able to do it. So many of our schools are using spreadsheets for teachers to grade, which actually is not a stretch at all, because teachers are used to using spreadsheets to grade. So this is an unusual spreadsheet, but you can recognize it, the students, the grades, and then those are called, they're standards, because it was a different way of grading, rather than having an 89 or a 90%. These schools, the latest thing in educational design, a lot of schools are doing standards-based or competency-based education. So this is the first of an idea of how do you do a spreadsheet for grading. And then the next. And then the youth school, again, back to Neil Giet, they said, wait a second, so you can do grades with a spreadsheet. Could we also do something that's not quite grades, how engaged somebody is? And I don't know, you remember doing that? I mean, that was one of your teachers actually had that idea. It wasn't even coming from the principal. A teacher said, could I do two things? One is, I'd like to know from our attendance system whether the child is there or not. Now we're getting beyond what a lot of other multi-million-dollar systems can do. But we're integrating, the teacher can see in their grade book whether the student is absent, whether they're late, whether they're getting out early, all kinds of information right in the teacher's grade book. But in addition, the teachers are starting to keep track of how engaged the student is. I don't know if you want to...
No, it's just we were asked to be an asynchronous school, which means students moving at their own pace. And so you can imagine if you're used to school, school is very linear, right? Teacher drives the pace, everybody does the same thing. What happens when 25 kids are doing 20 different things, right? It kind of blows your head, it blows your mind if you start thinking about it. So we need to design a tool that can track what tasks students were on specific days, and then graph that for them, and that would determine, ultimately invented something called a productivity score, which is like a metric that students get to determine like how much and how productive they're being in achieving their goals. And so, yeah, that was an idea that came from idea to action in 2 weeks.
That's what bears repeating, that it's so fast. I can sit down with a teacher and develop something. It's a spreadsheet. So let's next. And this is important to remember, that when a teacher is doing a grade book, the way our system works is it's as easy as a teacher clicking on send. And then all the data instantly goes to every single student because they're spreadsheets, right? So the information isn't going through some third place, downloaded, uploaded each night or something like that. It's just going from that teacher's gradebook directly to the student dashboard. It's just spreadsheets. Okay. So, now, important. This isn't just about creating pretty spreadsheets. Although some of them look beautiful. It's not about that. It's about this idea that up until now, we've been constrained by our technology. We saw a pink slip when we were kids and thought that's all behavior could be. Or we saw tardy, absent, or present. And because those systems were so hard to build, we didn't let ourselves be creative. Now, when teachers, and believe me, it takes a week or so to convince the school they can have anything they want. Because they always start the same way. Because we've been trained. They start out saying, I want exactly what the other school has. I say, no, but you don't have to have exactly what we built already. We can build another thing for you in 2 weeks. And when schools get that idea, they almost always come up with something brilliant and original. So, this past year, our brains are ready to explode because we've got so much going on. We decided to approach Google. And Google, Anna and Eliana fly out to Google for one of their conferences, and they meet with the person who's in charge of educational partnerships, and who's also happens to be a former teacher. And he looks at our system and he says, wow, this is really interesting. My wife is a teacher. Could she look at your system? So while they were out there, Anna and Eliana went and met with the Google partnership person and his wife. And his wife said, great. And so now his wife is a client also. So we have now clients, we've built about 10 to 15 different clients all over the country, and then one in the Middle East. And they're all excited. And so then his wife and the partnership, the educational partnership person from Google, gave us a challenge. And he said, could you build a starter system for schools and make it an add-on in our store? Could you do that? Could you make something that could start a school up so they don't need us? Could they just have something that they could download from the Google Apps, a Google add-on marketplace, which is what it's called now, and so the school can get started with something that works, but then they can start customizing it. And so 6 months after that, maybe 9 months, it took a little while to create it, we created EdSpread. EdSpread is a demo system that a school, it's more than a demo system. It's a working system that a school can use. They download a standard, simple gradebook, a standard, simple student dashboard, and then it's just their knowledge of spreadsheets to be able to make it bigger or different or whatever, or come back to us and we can help them make something more complicated. So, but there's a bigger picture here than even that. The bigger picture is the tools that we're using in the background that are now also downloadable from that app for free can allow any business to create entire data systems in weeks instead of years when they go with Google spreadsheets. That's a huge, not just a time savings, but a creativity jumpstart. So this is us now. xSoTec, entire businesses in weeks instead of years. We're a partner with Google, and I want to show you something. Let's go to the next thing. Here we go. The benefits of our system. Every single system that we build, even though it's done quickly, we don't have, it's Google spreadsheets. There's no separate login. There's no authentication. There's none of the things get totally secure, right? In fact, they're so secure that I can't even see their data as the developer, because the system is, our tool allows them to build their own system. I don't have any, I'm skipping around, but there's no FERPA or HIPAA issues because it's all within their system. I don't need to have an agreement with that organization. It's all within their system. There's no separate logon. You can use it from any device because it's Google. Google already did that work. It's a spreadsheet. The school controls and owns their own data. There's never a server overload. You know, school districts spend millions of dollars on systems, right? And then when all the students go to look at their report card at the same time, or all the teachers upload their grades, it goes down after millions of dollars, right? Guess what? If all 100,000 students went on Google at the same time, Google wouldn't even notice. So we created a fraction of the time. We're talking, well, obviously you've heard it, weeks instead of years, but as far as money is concerned, it could be a quarter of the price. Maybe even a bigger savings than that. So, and obviously, really, really rapid iteration, and that's an important word. It's iteration. It's allowing the school to try something, learn from it, and try something else. That is something that doesn't happen in traditional technology. So here we go. All right. So those of you who are not in schools might be wondering, well, does this have anything to do with nonprofits or other businesses? Guess what? It's the exact same model. Same model. Okay, so here's what our model looks like. We have a teacher dashboard, teacher dashboard, teacher dashboard, right? And lots of student dashboards around it that are getting information from many, many teachers. Many, many students are getting information from many, many teachers. Let's take a look at another one. What about this? A nonprofit. The nonprofit has 3 different systems, or you've got multiple nonprofits, all with different clients, right? I don't know if you can picture that, but so each client is now doesn't have to log in to the nonprofit system. You're sending it to their spreadsheet. It's a completely different way of looking at it. They control their own data, not a third party. So, and of course they can get it on their phone because they log into their Google system through their phone anyway. All right, keep going. Or our business is starting to use it ourselves, right? So let's say, when an organization calls us and they want a quote, we have a quoting grade book, if I can use that word. We've got a quoting grade book, and we've also got a billing grade book. So that so every client would get a spreadsheet that would show their latest quotes, their latest bills. I can do hourly. Every time I work for an hour for a client, well, the client gets that hour immediately. They don't have to wait till the end of the month to get something, they get it immediately. So it's just a completely different way of saying things. But this is this idea that you can have multiple input dashboards and multiple output dashboards and do it easily and do it in a spreadsheet is really the big picture. And we're just starting to investigate that. And that's where we are as an organization. All right, so I talked about 3 ways. The system is always the same, but there's really 3 ways of looking at it that are very different based on your organization. There's EdSpread, which is the working, simple starter grade book that schools can use to get started. And Anna is going to be leading a breakout on that. The other is our tool, and that's a little more technical. But those of you who are interested more in the technology background, how does it work to build any kind of organization that has input dashboards and output dashboards? Eliana is our expert in that. So Eliana, you'll probably continue doing the projector. Yeah, I think you'll use the projector. I think that's the way to do it. And then anybody who's interested in other use cases, anyone who's interested in other use cases for this system, and we want to talk about it or brainstorm it, then we can gather around and I'll talk to those people. And I thought we would talk maybe about, what time is it now?
It's 9:51.
9:51, perfect. So we'll talk maybe 20 minutes or so on that. You can ask questions, you can introduce, you can do networking in that small group. And then afterwards, then if you want to hang around and ask questions just generally or network, then I'm happy to do that too. But that's my story. Hope you enjoyed it. I don't think I want to take questions now. I think we want to break up into those groups. Is there any questions about how to break up into the groups? Does that sound? Is there any?
I think we separate and then figure out how many people are interested in which.
Does everybody think that they would be interested in one of those 3 groups? Yeah? All right. Okay, you'll stay here. Anna? All right. All right. Anna?
Yes.
Why don't you go over to the table and chairs over there, and I'll take the table and chairs over here if anybody's interested in that. That way we're far enough that we can have a small conversation. Just for 15, 20 minutes, and then we can regroup if you'd like. Oh, we do have a survey at the end that we would like everybody to fill out. And I can hand that out too while we're in the group.